Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whenever it is that you're watching this. Hello. I'm Flora Sage, and I'm so excited that you're here. Today, we're going to talk about inner and outer boundaries. So I just finished with a group coaching inside of my 1 Degree Shift tribe, and several of the members asked questions about conversations, about boundaries, about other people in their life, and also about goals. And one of the things that we talked about is not only setting up boundaries with people in our life, but also looking at the boundaries that we have within ourselves. And so outer boundaries are like, this piece of clothing is a boundary so that I have something protecting my skin against the sun, protecting my areas from exposure. So yes, a Band-Aid is a barrier and a boundary from a wound for a wound, for, dirt and water and all the other things. So just as we have these external boundaries, like your front door is a boundary for your house, maybe you have a fence around your house. So there's all these outward boundaries. Rarely do we think about inner boundaries. And so when you think about, let's just say that, prime example, someone who's on a diet. So they have a boundary inside of like, I am not going to buy chocolate cake, because if I buy chocolate cake or buy cookies or ice cream, I'm going to eat it. So they know that if that is in their space, if that sweet crosses the threshold, the boundary of their home, and it's in the parameters of their home, they're going to eat it. So what they do is, I'm not even going to have it in my space because I'm on a diet, and so I've got blinders up. I'm not going to look at the food. No, thank you. But do you really need that boundary? Do you really need that boundary of the physical space? And so, if someone were to bring in donuts or cookies or brownies or whatever it is, why are you choosing to cross that boundary? Why are you choosing to say, well, it's here, so I might as well just eat it? No, that is a boundary that you actually think you have, but you don't have, okay? If it really was a boundary for you to not eat cookies and pies and cakes and all the things while you're on a diet, you would see it and say, no, I'm committing to myself. I'm committing to my health, my well-being, and how I want to feel. And I'm not going to partake in that. When I do eat these particular things, I feel like shit. I feel heavy. I feel bloated. I feel whatever it is that you feel. And then after you eat it, you feel all those things, and then you feel like shit for feeling like shit, and you feel like shit for eating those things and all this other stuff. And so also, let's just say that you have a goal of riding a horse, and maybe you feel a little bit scared about riding a horse, but you know that you really want to ride a horse. And so think about, what parameters, what boundaries, what thoughts do you have in your head that are causing you to feel these certain things? Now, when you give yourself permission to look at your thoughts are going to show you where you stand. It's going to show you what boundaries you have and what you don't have. A clear boundary is when you're like, no, I don't do that. Like some people, if you ask any given person, are you a smoker or a non-smoker, or a social smoker? Someone will say, I don't smoke. Other people will say, yeah, I smoke a pack a day, or I smoke 3 cigarettes a day, or whatever, or I vape. And then other people will say, oh, I only smoke at the bar. Like, these are boundaries, these are parameters that we've set up for ourselves. So you could identify as a smoker or a non-smoker. So again, these are boundaries that you have in your head that you share with other people. But sometimes if you're not clear about where you stand and about what you really truly want, then those boundaries can be crossed all the time, and they're very vague, and that's when things happen. That's when you have arguments with people. That's when you can't be consistent with something. People that do yo-yo dieting do not have a clear boundary in their head. They do not have a clear self-image of who they are, what they really want, and they haven't visualized themselves in that space. And so when you change that self-image, when you change who you are inside, you can't help but receive that on the outside. And so you have to have that clear picture of, I don't eat sweets. Or if I do eat sweets, I'll eat like a quarter of the brownie. Or I'll eat a brownie and just enjoy it and not beat myself up about it. And know that one brownie once a week or whatever is not going to make me get overweight or whatever. It's the excessiveness of certain things. Same thing with conversations with people. If you know that certain people overshare, if you know that certain people, if you tell someone something, they're going to tell everybody, you know, if you don't want anybody else to know a certain thing, don't tell that person. You know what I mean? So all of these are little boundaries that typically are crossed, that are ignored all the time. So if you have something going on in your life that you feel is chaotic, and there's a reason why I just gave you like all these examples in kind of this chaotic form, that's what life feels like when we don't have clear boundaries. When we don't have that clear boundary within ourselves of, this is what I want, this is what I don't want. This is what I like, this is what I don't like. Okay? And so if you don't like feeling like shit in your body, give yourself permission to say, what do I eat that makes me feel like shit? It could be dairy. It could be ice cream. It could be like processed carbs like that. It could be chocolate, whatever it is. Sushi, I don't know, whatever it is. Ask yourself, what do I like more? Do I like feeling like shit more than I like feeling good? You have to get clear about this, okay? Because when you get clear about what you like and what you don't like, and then ask yourself, like, let's just say that you love ice cream, but ice cream doesn't love you. Maybe when you eat ice cream, it makes you feel like crap. Maybe you go diarrhea. Maybe you get bloated. Maybe you get itchy. Maybe you just get all the random things that happen when you eat ice cream, and you're just like, oh my gosh. I used to be that person. I love ice cream, but I don't love how it makes me feel. And therefore, I don't eat it anymore. I choose not to partake in ice cream because it does not agree with my body. And I like feeling good more than I like the taste of ice cream and the experience of ice cream. So giving yourself permission to get really crystal clear about what you like, what you don't like inside, this is your internal boundaries, and what you are willing to permit in your life from yourself first. Then you can address the stuff outwardly. Because outwardly, what happens is if you're not clear with yourself and you don't hold yourself accountable for your own boundaries that you've set, why should anybody else accept the boundaries that you say that you want when they see you completely disrespecting yourself? Now, granted, that's not permission for somebody else to be a jackass to you. It's not. But I'm just saying that's why people do the things that they do oftentimes is they see somebody being a flake or being wishy-washy. I'm not saying you're being a flake or you're being wishy-washy. I'm just saying that energy doesn't lie. Energy does not lie. And oftentimes, if we are with people that don't respect boundaries and things, oftentimes they probably don't respect their own boundaries either. They probably may not even know what boundaries are for themselves. You know what I mean? Okay, so hang on. I've got someone in the comments. Let me just a minute. Okay, so Samantha says, I was very annoyed with my friend recently who brought butter tarts to my house knowing I was staying away from sweets. You just crossed a boundary, LOL. But I'm thinking what your point is. I can't just be upset with my friend because they didn't cross it. It's because it's my choice to cross it, that the boundary to eat them or not. Exactly. Yes. Yes, yes, yes. Oh my goodness. Yes. Yes. This is huge. You can choose. You have the power of choice. You are very powerful, my friend. You have the choice to cross over that threshold, to cross over that boundary. You have the choice. All you have to do is decide, I'm not eating sweets. I don't eat sweets, or I don't eat specific sweets, or I don't eat sweets on Monday through Friday, or whatever it is. Like, you decide what your boundaries are. Okay? So if you are having issues with people in your life, okay, that's not an excuse for them to be a jerk for you. But if you're having issues with people in your life crossing your boundaries, oftentimes you haven't articulated your boundaries to them or for them. But also, more importantly, maybe you haven't articulated and created boundaries for yourself, or looked at the boundaries that you have for yourself. So one of the things that I would recommend that you do today is do just this. Look at and reflect, what boundaries do I have for myself that I'm choosing to ignore and cross over and kind of be a jerk to yourself? Because, I mean, ultimately, if you feel like shit after eating onions, or after eating milk or dairy or ice cream or bread or whatever it is, and you continue to eat that, you are harming yourself. You are crossing your own boundary. So when others hear you say, when I eat ice cream, I feel like shit, but fuck it, I'm gonna eat it anyway, they're seeing that inconsistency with you. They're seeing the inconsistency with your boundaries and your standards and what you will and will not tolerate. And subconsciously and energetically and vibrationally, that tells them, okay, so I can be that inconsistent with her as well, because I'm kind of that way with myself also. Like attracts like. Like attracts like. So Dee Dee says, question, how do you address that to someone who you've tried to explain about boundaries, but they just don't get it? I've learned to walk away, yet it hurts because I do value the relationship, but I can't stand that I have to make the decisions for them because they can't make their own decisions. So give yourself permission to have a conversation. So you've explained boundaries to them, but they don't get it. Have another conversation with them, if you can, and have them articulate back to you what you said. So this is called mirroring. And so say, I want to try a little exercise with you if you want to. I mean, of course, ask their permission if they want to participate in this. And say, this is what's going on. And this is my boundary. Now, one of the things that we talked about inside of the 1 Degree Shift Tribe is a dialogue script. It's actually in my book. It's in my book, The 1 Degree Shift. And the dialogue script is a very, very powerful conversational tool. I'll tell you. Okay, the dialogue script is from chapter 5. Let me go to that chapter so that I can tell you what page it's on, because I know a lot of you have this book. So, chapter 5 is all about creating boundaries. It's on page 45 is when it starts. And the dialogue script is on page 49. So what the dialogue script says is, when blank happens, I feel blank because blank, and what I really need is blank. So, Dee Dee, I would recommend that you use this dialogue script when you talk with your friend. And the whole chapter talks about boundaries, what they are, what happens when they're crossed, all the stuff. And so avoid using always and never when you are speaking with your friend. Like, you always do this or you never do that. Rarely is something always or never, okay? So avoid using absolutes, but share with them, when this happens, I feel this way because of this, and what I really need is this. So you're posing a solution to the issue that you guys are having. But also know that if you're in a relation with someone who is, possibly codependent, possibly a narcissist, possibly a sociopath, those people won't get it. Those people will not understand boundaries. And oftentimes when you articulate a boundary to someone who is a codependent, who is a narcissist, who is a sociopath, all hell breaks loose, okay? They might gaslight you. They might, okay, so yes, my friend is codependent. Okay, so that's a whole other ball of wax. So depending on the type of codependent, if they are overt or covert. So the covert is if you share your truth with a covert codependent, they'll get really quiet. They might start crying. They might feel hurt. They're going to take it personally. And that's pretty much just going to end the conversation. Okay? Now, when the other part, the overt part of codependent, when you share a boundary, they're going to get defensive, they're going to get pissed, and they're going to tell you why you're wrong and why they're right. So depending on the type of codependent that they are, those are the two answers. A healthy person who recognizes boundaries are good and healthy, and that you have boundaries, I have boundaries, then yes, he gets passive aggressive. Oh, classic codependent. Yes. Ooh, classic. Yes. So someone that has a healthy boundary or a healthy relational mindset will appreciate that you have articulated a boundary and not take it personally and recognize that this is for the health of the relationship. And then hopefully have a discussion with you on how to make it work more succinctly. So, yes, if you're in a relation with so I say relation because there's all kinds of relationships. There's the intimate relationships, the platonic, the work, the casual, the friend, all the different things. So when you are in relation with anyone who is a codependent, you really need to pick your battles, because until they heal their codependency, boundaries are going to be an issue. One of the classic traits of a codependent is enmeshment. And enmeshment truly is lack of boundaries. This is you, this is the other person, boom, it's enmeshment. And a boundary is ripping off you from them and saying, I love you, but I want to be separate. And in their mind, if you love me, we need to be all up in each other's shit. You know what I mean? Whether it's an intimate relationship or just a friendship relationship. Okay? And so articulating boundaries to someone that is enmeshed or that could be enmeshed or that is a codependent is going to be very challenging. And so pick your battles, give yourself permission. And I don't mean that in a way where you're anticipating that it's always going to be a fight, but you said it's just classic. He's passive aggressive, does this every single time. You can choose to separate yourself from that relation. You can choose to distance yourself. You can choose to only talk with that person about certain things. And you can be firm and just say, look, I am not okay with this, and call them out on the passive aggressive behavior. I am not okay with you being passive aggressive because I'm standing firm in my boundary. And when you call them out, especially an overt codependent that you call out, they'll get pissed, they know you're right, and they walk away, typically. So, but if they get pissed, that's not your problem, okay? Now, try to use tact when you're talking with the person. Try not to be an asshole, but give yourself permission to just pick your battles. So she says, yes, it's hard to bite my tongue now. He and his wife are very codependent, but he claims he wants to be polite and respectful, but he doesn't know the difference. Yes, that is often the case. Yeah, and you can't, you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make him drink. You can teach a horse to jump, but you can't make him jump when you want. Unless you're a really trained horseback rider. I'm kidding. But, ultimately, give yourself permission to look at what boundaries you have in your life, Dee Dee, and say, am I willing to let codependent people in my life? Am I willing to continue to let this energy influence me? And if it's not a healthy relationship, if it's not a healthy dynamic, you can choose to just distance yourself and just not hang out with them as often as you used to. And if you have to hang out with them, just do as little interaction as possible. You know what I mean? And that's a boundary that you can set up with yourself. So let me know if this helps you. But yes, I love this. And we just spoke for an hour, or not spoke, we just connected for an hour inside of the 1 Degree Shift Tribe about this very topic, about really digging into, and you know, we had somebody talk about horseback riding and her daughter. We had someone talk about and ask questions about her oldest, or I think one of her, I'm not actually sure if it's her oldest son, but her 21-year-old son, about dishes and laundry and household chores and things like that. We also talked about, you know, oversharing when it comes to the work environment. And we had so many aha moments with our clients, and it was absolutely incredible. So if you found value to this coaching, if you found value to this concept and to hearing about boundaries, we're going to be digging into boundaries all month long inside of the 1 Degree Shift Tribe. And I would love to support you, not just once a week here on Facebook, but every single day. You will have me in your back pocket. Okay? So if you want my support every single day inside of the 1 Degree Shift Tribe, what I want you to do is click the link, putting it in the comments right now. Click the link. Join us inside the 1 Degree Shift Tribe so that you can get support not only from myself, but everybody else in the group that is also working through this, that also has kind of been there, done that. And you're going to start to see remarkable shifts in your relationships, not only with other people, but with yourself as well. So I hope you've enjoyed hearing kind of the difference and just kind of some dynamics about the inner and outer workings of boundaries. And I will be back here next week for more. All right. I love you. I hope you have a fabulous, fabulous rest of your day. Mwah. Bye.